Protests like this one are happening almost every day in Buenos Aires. It's a reflection of the economic situation in the country. People are demanding better salaries and a halt in payments of foreign debt.
I repudiate the arrival of the IMF and Fernandez's policy of submission to this body, just as he did with the foreign bondholders. Of course, there is another way, a completely sovereign path, which is to denounce this debt, to stop paying and to allocate these billions of dollars to the working people.
The protest coincide with a mission by the IMF to the South American country. Argentina was granted more than $50 billion in loans during the government of former President Mauricio Macri. Now President Alberto Fernandez has started to negotiate on how to pay it back. It's all happening as Argentina's peso currency is facing a credibility crisis. Since last year, it has been consistently losing value as people turn towards the US dollar to safeguard their savings.
With such a weak economic situation, it is unreasonable to expect that the government could deliver on the structural reforms and even on some very ambitious fiscal adjustment in the first years. The society is politically polarized. To make any kind of commitments that the next government will have to deliver, you need some consensus on an economic plan.
The economy in Argentina was in trouble prior to the pandemic, struggling with recession and high inflation. It was one of the first countries in Latin America to impose a strict lockdown to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And even though it was able to control the amount of infections early on, it's now fighting a spike in recent weeks.
The government is trying to track down people that have the virus but have no symptoms, and that's why they have increased testing in areas with a high infection rate like this one. They do a saliva test, then they're allowed to go home to wait for the results.
The dire economic situation in the country posed a challenge for the lockdown, as many in Argentina could not afford to stay home. Millions work in the informal sector, and in spite of some government aid, it was not enough for many to make ends meet. Analysts are now saying Argentina is facing a perfect storm. Endemic economic problems plus a pandemic that, like many others, the government is struggling to control. Teresa, Al Jazeera, Buenos Aires.